Now, ladies and gentlemen, with Counter-Strike Global Offensive turning 10 years old in August of 2022, there has been a fair share of updates throughout that 10 years that people have just simply forgotten about. That being a very large update or something small that has eventually affected the market or affected the game in a very positive or negative way down the line, and that's exactly what we'll be discussing in today's video. Now, these aren't ranked in any sort of order whatsoever. These are handpicked for myself that I've had to do a lot of research and also scroll back down on the CSGO updates page. And well, you can look at these for yourself by going to the CSGO updates page and scrolling back as far as 2012 to 2013. So if you guys enjoy content like this and weekly CSGO content, make sure you hit that like button and of course subscribe. And before we hop into this, here's a quick word from our video sponsor, Skinport. Now, today's video sponsor is, of course, Skinport. Skinport is currently the biggest, most secure buying and selling marketplace for Counter-Strike Global Offensive skins in North America and Europe. It's currently trusted by 10,000 people and some more who gave it a 4.9 to a 5-star rating on a place like Trustpilot. Buying skins is very easy and is great with discounts up to 30% and, of course, over 420,000 options to choose from. In those instances where you want to buy something, for an example, you're going to run into examples of something like this. The Bayonet Doppler currently listed on the Steam market for $507. Skinport is offering for $382 USD, of course. That's a 29% off discount compared to what it has on the Steam market. Checking out whether you're buying or selling skins is easy, fast, and secure. With selling, of course, it goes to your bank directly via bank transfer with no hidden fees whatsoever, which is very, very nice. If you guys are interested in selling some of your skins or picking up some new flashy ones, make sure to check them out in the top of the link in the description below. Now, some of these are really well known and some of them aren't. And for the first one I'm going to be starting off with, came in June of 2018. This doesn't feel like that long ago, but of course it's been a pretty long time. And of course this one was called the Express Trade. And specifically, this was the update where Valve officially went in, sent a cease and desist letters out to all these different websites who were pretty much going against Valve terms of service on different things with gambling and of course trading websites. And this was against OP Skins, which currently at the time was the biggest trading website and biggest marketplace of all time. CSGO at the time wasn't very big, and I believe at this point China really hadn't entered the scene yet in CSGO, so skin prices and player count didn't go crazy. This was pretty much the buff version of CSGO skins at the time, so this was a pretty big deal. And pretty much this was the initial shutdown and the final shutdown of OP Skins, which was a sad time. And pretty much they violated Valve's terms of service, and people got kind of a little worried about this at the time. People didn't really know the whole story, and people thought this could have been the end of trading. Now, was it? Absolutely not. I think Valve would be stupid to end trading, and at the time that would have been probably one of their stupidest decisions they would have ever made at that time. And just 3 months prior, they of course entered and added the 7-day trade cooldown, which pretty much fought fraud and of course fought gambling websites to kind of combat the problems that of course occurred with that. With fraud, very shady stuff that was going on behind the scenes, like the T Martin Syndicate scandal, FaZe owning CSGO Wild, and of course little kids entering to a gambling website. So I think that was a pretty strong start to number one. Here we up next to number two. This is probably pretty well known, but of course we've had a lot of new people in the CSGO scene the past couple of years, and people may have forgotten what CSGO was like before the Panorama update. So when you launch CSGO, you obviously see your character and your player model with a background on map of your choice. Before, it wasn't looking anything like that. It was looking very outdated, very old, and in my personal opinion, it was bad. The only thing good that was about it was of course the trade-up contracts. The old trade-up contracts were 10 times better. The UI was actually surprisingly less clunky and delayed, it felt like. The new one feels delayed versus the old one, where if you opened a case, it wouldn't glitch out. The newer one, sometimes you do a trade-up contract or you unbox a skin, it sometimes doesn't load properly, so you got to go back to the CSGO page, then click your inventory, and it just felt very, very smooth. Well, in June of 2018, they of course added the Panorama update. And at the time, I believe in 2018, this was a beta. So you had an option to launch this as well as the older version if it wasn't fully done, or maybe it wasn't optimized enough for your computer at the time. And then I think about 6 months to a year later, they officially removed the older version so you could only use Panorama, which I think this was really needed inside of CSGO. And a lot of people were expecting something like this with Source 2, but of course we still haven't received that, and it's 2022. But up until this update, for the past 6 years prior, they had the old UI update, which was just kind of crazy. And it kind of makes me feel thankful for the new one we have nowadays. Now up next at number 3 is very forgotten, I would say, and that is the community capsule in 2018. The reason I would say this one has been forgotten, and I chose this one specifically, is because it is forgotten. I don't see anyone ever rock these stickers in game. No one ever talks about them. The prices haven't gone anything crazy. And it's just one of those miscellaneous sticker capsules, kind of similar to the Battlefield 2042 sticker capsule that came out almost a year ago at this point. No one talks about it, and it's absolute trash. But this one, to be exact, isn't bad. It's just weird that they added it, and they do this sometimes where they just add random crap to the game that people aren't going to remember in 6 months, and this even happens sometimes in operations. But of course, you have some cool ones here and there. Of course, you have the friendly fire hollow. Of course, don't shoot your teammates. The small arms, where you're going to be a pistols master. You have, of course, the devouring flame, which essentially is a cocktail Molotov on the T side. You have the camper and bullet rain, so rain from heaven with the op, or 5 people, a ramp on Mirage with Negevs. You never know. And of course, the camper, if you're a sniper, you're hiding jungle in a 1v4, and you end up clutching it up, well, you deserve this sticker. But I thought that was pretty cool and kind of needed to get added to today's video. It's just another miscellaneous update people might have forgotten. This, of course, next up was a little bit interesting. And this was something I think a lot of people also forgotten. And this was the extension of Operation Hydra. So, of course, this is the notorious update where we didn't get another operation for almost 3.5 years. And this came out in September of 2017, and they say Operation Hydra will be extended from September to, of course, November 13th, and passes are now 50% off. So that was available for a very long time. If only we knew that CSGO would grow this much, and we would have bought in all those Hydra cases from back then. And this is just kind of more of a funny thing that most people probably forgot or didn't even know existed at the time, where we had an operation extended. And imagine if this happened during Operation Broken Fang or Riptide, or throughout one of the newer operations that come nowadays, where people really rely on CSGO investments and the CSGO operation ending for them to make their profits, or for things to kind of go back to the way they were before an operation came out. I think personally, this would be absolutely crazy if this happened nowadays, and the fact that it happened back then just proves we're in a completely different era of Counter-Strike, and, you know, it's just an interesting update to see that they had back in the day. Let me know what you guys think of that one down below. Next up at number 5 is a very interesting one, and it's something I myself wish I bought at the time, as well as many other people, because these things are extremely expensive and extremely rare nowadays. And that, of course, is the release of the first series of the genuine pins. Now, these are going for thousands of dollars on places like eBay and just places online, because you can't get them in game. The only way you were able to get them at the time was attending a tournament hosted by Valve themselves. And of course, this was in May of 2016, so a very, very long time ago. In my personal opinion, one of the prime years for NACS, because you had Cloud9, you had Optic, and all these huge brand name teams on the NA scene. But nowadays, they're of course nowhere to be seen. And now I'm just a NA genius, of course, living in the EU scene. But these pins are really cool, and it's kind of a throwback to this update where people might not even know the difference between genuine pins and normal pins. So genuine pins, you had to be in an event to, of course, obtain this, and it was just a random kind of capsule you opened, but it was IRL. You got a little pin on the actual box of it, and you got a code on the back, and you rip that code off, you put it into Steam, and of course you get that genuine pin. Now, do these ever expire? I don't know. And if you guys want to see a real life unboxing where I buy a couple of these from eBay, let me know. I'd love to see what you guys think, and of course for me to actually make a video on it, I'd maybe enjoy that myself, and of course have that on my Steam profile. Now, next up at number 6 is a throwback to when I buy power through, and this of course was the integrity and fair play update in January of 2015, so a very, very long time ago, pushing the 7-year mark pretty soon. And this of course was during a CSGO LAN, which CSGO isn't really much heard of in CSGO anymore, very similar to ESEA. They're not really heard much of, and people don't really play on their service. But this of course was between iBuyPower and Netcode Guides, where iBuyPower, and I would say probably at the time, Netcode Guides threw the game. And at the time, iBuyPower threw 4 skins, and how much were they throwing for to throw their careers out the window? Like Brax, for an example, Dazed, AZK, Swag, Steel. They threw out, I think it was only like $1,000 at the time in CSGO skins. Now, how much those would be worth nowadays, who knows? They would have just sold them off anyway at the time to get that extra cash. A couple things to note at this time. CSGO salaries in esports weren't really that big at the time. You were only really a huge player if you had a YouTube, if you had a Twitch, and of course were winning tournaments. And at the time, NA was nowhere close to winning a tournament, and of course getting huge salaries like they were in EU. Even the top name teams and top brand teams like NIP, VP, Fnatic, and many others at the time were breaking in, I would say, probably a little over minimum wage. Probably a little better than that, but you guys get the point. That's essentially why they threw for skins. And the reason Skadoodle on Cloud9, that won the Boston Major, but previously before was on iBuyPower, the reason he did not get banned was because the skins, they didn't have enough of them and did not get deposited to his account. But he still threw the game, and luckily for him, that really worked out for him in the end because he had a great career. And, you know, I could only imagine what these guys could have done in the NA scene versus some of these EU guys when CS really started picking up just a couple of years later. And still to this day, this is still one of the most talked about things. And for new people coming to the game and for people who have played since back then, they may have forgotten about this. And I think this is something that needed to be discussed and talked about at least in today's video once. Now up next at number 7 is the notorious R8 update. When they added this thing to the game, do you ever wonder why, if you're a new player in CSGO, maybe that started playing after 2017, or maybe you joined the pandemic era of CS in 2020, why no one uses the Revolver? Well, here you go, I got you. In December of 2015, a very notorious update that still gives me nightmares to this day, they decided to add a new weapon to both sides of the game. I believe it was for $800, a little over what the Deagle costed. It was the most broken thing of all time. It was literally a pocket op. It was a one-shot to the chest with armor, including head armor as well. It one-shotted people in the face. You could shoot these rounds before the round even started when you were in CT or T-spawn. So you could technically waste all of your ammo before the map even started. And just until, I would say it took about a week for them to update this because people were playing tournaments in the pro scene and they had to revert back to older updates because of how broken this gun was at the time. I remember back in the day with Cloud9, for an example, with Freakazoid, Shroud, Nothing, all those people with Skadoodle, had to revert back to an older update because of how broken this was. And just a couple weeks later, it of course got updated. Now, this is something people wish nowadays kind of happened again, but also not in the same magnitude, where this thing is good, kind of similar to the Desert Eagle, an example, but of course not like the op. We just want it to be a usable weapon in the game because it's an underrated gun in my personal opinion. It's pretty cool. It was a pretty cool addition. And of course they learned their lessons with the MP5 when they added that later on, just a couple years later. Now next up here at number 8 was a pretty interesting one. It was also a very important update, and especially for people nowadays, they don't really care, but it's interesting to know how we got to the way we are today, especially with that 7-day trade hold cooldown. This was on March of 2018, and this of course was named adjustments to maps and trades. So at the time there was adjustments to canals, which is no longer in the game, which kind of sucks, even though there's a whole collection based off of it. You had adjustments to Nuke and Dust 2, but the most important part, they stated that starting today on this exact date in 2018, CSGO items received in a trade will have the same 7-day trade hold cooldown as items purchased in-game or via the Steam community market. So at the time, this 7-day trade hold cooldown was only for third-party sites and not for the Steam store, and of course not the community market, which that was a problem because there's a lot of fraud and stuff going on with that as well. But this combated that quite a bit, and I think they did a pretty good job on it. But it's just interesting to see how we got to the place we are today. Now last and next up at number 9 is something people don't even know, I don't think, existed, and also just completely forgot about. Now this was 5 years ago at this point in time, and 3 Clicks Phillips has a great video explaining everything, so go check it out if you guys want to see anything. This of course was in April of 2017, and pretty much all knives inside of CSGO, and this was before the Danger Zone update where we had all the newer ones. This was the old OG ones, like the Karambit, the Butterfly, the bayonet, the M9 bayonet, the gut knife, the falchion, and flip knife, and whatever. They all had different deploy times. So at the time, you had people playing in tournaments at this exact moment who were using the default knife because technically at the time it was statistically better, which was kind of odd. The bayonet and Karambit at the time, I believe, had the slowest pullout. So it took an extra 0.2 or 5 of a second, which actually kind of is a lot, especially if you're getting in a gunfight and you got to fall back, go around a corner and switch out to your knife and then gun, or, you know, reload. You kind of get the picture. And that was a problem because it was not pay to win, it was the complete opposite. And for people who were paying thousands of dollars for skins, they're like, why don't I have the same possibilities and advantages as someone who's having no skins? So in April of 2017, they exactly changed that. And of course, 3 Clicks Phillips has a great example and video talking about that specifically. Now let me know what you guys thought about these CSGO forgotten updates. Did you remember any of them? Did any of them kind of surprise you or shock you? And especially for that Operation Hydra one, do you think if you received something like that today, that would absolutely blow up the market, it would destroy it, people would riot and just kind of want to get it off the game? Because I believe that would happen. Let me know what you guys think. If you guys enjoyed content like this and want to see it in the future, let me know. Feel free to comment down below, and of course, catch you guys in the next one. Peace out.